Welcome to the Shoot It Straight podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to our lovely show here today.
Here on a Saturday.
Here on a beautiful, cold, sunny Saturday in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think we're back to normal, though, to be honest, if we're talking about like what weather should be like today, but maybe not. Maybe it's a little chilly.
I was getting a little concerned that it was too nice and too warm already, and Oklahoma's already hot enough in the summer. We don't need it being 80 in February. That it's what's going to happen in June and July and August? Is it going to be 120 instead of 110?
Probably, but
I mean, at some point, it doesn't really even matter. It's just brutally hot. But
it's just feeling like Florida, and I don't like that. Too much of the same thing every day.
Yeah, we don't need that. And that's kind of like the point we were just talking about with food. So,
oh my gosh, today's topic. Yeah, can I introduce today's topic?
I guess we're gonna go right in. Let's go.
It's a fun one. I think I say that every week, but this one is a fun one. We're gonna talk about what we do for our food, like each of us, together and separately, because we kind of approach food differently right now, but we also like have very similar meal prep situations. So it's a guide on a very practical way of how to meal prep your food. I feel like sometimes we see things on the internet that are very like either complicated or overdone, or like you live in this perfect world where you're a fitness influencer and you have nothing else to do but make videos about your meal prep and like that extreme end of things. And then of course there's like people that don't do anything at all. And then there's like, of course, like the practical middle ground. Mm-hmm. And then, you've been tracking macros, and I think you probably will forever, but I've been taking a break from that for a while. And so it'll be good to kind of talk about what we're doing right now and the reasons why.
Yeah, sounds good. Where do we want to lead that off? I mean,
I think we can each talk about like what we're doing, and then because I think that's kind of where we're different, obviously. And then we can talk about our prep strategies and just kind of how we go about like buying our groceries and like what our day-to-day kind of looks like.
Okay. Lead us off. Let's hear. You start it off and then I'll go.
I'll go first. So we're in March. We're coming up on spring, summer. And for the last, since November, so 4 months plus, I have stopped tracking macros entirely after doing it for about 5 years pretty consistently, like very consistently, to be honest. So yeah, 4 months, and it's been really good. For people that don't know, like I also, do nutrition coaching and have coached clients for that about same amount of time, one-on-one. And from tracking for so long, you certainly learn a lot about your food and can create really good habits and structure around all of that. And I do believe in this for everybody that tracks. Doesn't necessarily have to be for 5 years in a row, but it's important to take tracking breaks. Mm-hmm. Now, what a lot of people do when they track is that they think, well, I'm tracking, so I'm only going to do this for the purposes of weight loss and dieting. And then when I don't track, I go off the rails and I'm an asshole. And so it's just kind of like that cycle that people get themselves in. Mm-hmm. Whether they think that they're in it or not, that's exactly what happens. So if they think, I tracked macros, it didn't work for me. It's like, well, it does. But then you stopped, and then you like didn't really continue good habits, right? And so we also hear a lot about intuitive eating. It's a very hot topic all the time, buzzword, whatever. And that's a word that I think people, in the world, that's perfect. We all want to intuitively eat, but unfortunately we live in this world that we just kind of have a lot of food at our disposal, and things are very highly processed and highly palatable and very easy to consume lots of calories. Like we don't live in the world of, we're just eating meat and vegetables and fruits from our labor from outside and like harvesting it. Mm-hmm. And so intuitive eating, like really, you kind of have to put the work in first before you can like be intuitive about your food. Listening to your body and listening to hunger signals and all of that stuff is very important, and that's a part of it. But what tracking macros will teach you is how to build balanced meals, what like a serving of protein looks like, what your day of protein looks like, all of that stuff. Like you learn that from tracking because you learn what's in your food. You learn how to build meals around that. You learn how to eat out, like all of those things. And so it's just been a nice break for me because we've been working a lot. And since then, I knew I wanted to just take some things off my plate, like from a headspace perspective, and just create like some more flexibility since I felt pretty confident in my tracking abilities regardless and just whatever. And so, yeah, I've been still eating fairly the same, honestly. Like I haven't changed too much. It's been nice to take a break from an app and having to track. I haven't weighed myself in months. I don't frankly really care. I've definitely felt like over the last, since it's been through the holidays and now we're like kind of coming out of winter, that maybe I am a little bit bigger, but I don't think that it's anything substantial. I'm judging that based on how clothes are fitting for sure. Which is a great signal of how like your body may or may not be changing. And yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with food. I think that I eat still plenty of protein. If I had to guess, I'm at 150 to 170 a day. We crush our creamies at night. That always helps with an extra 30 grams or whatever of protein that are in those. Probably more. I don't even
like 40
remember.
something.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I still wake up and have like meat and vegetables for breakfast most days. Like I eat the same thing for lunch. So we'll talk about that, like kind of how we prep our days and weeks. But yeah, that's sort of like my journey. I'd say like if I had to pick a goal or where I'm at, like as far as like the next few months, in general, I'd like to be moving a little bit more. My step count has been a little bit lower, nothing crazy, but it's also just kind of part of being in winter a little bit. We really haven't, like we just started, like we golfed last weekend, like just getting back out into the season of like just doing more things outside and being a little bit more active. I'd like to like take away like that little bit of fluff that I have going on. I don't anticipate tracking. I don't anticipate weighing myself. I just think that it's a matter of increasing my step count, getting a little bit more active, and maybe reducing the amount of like chocolate that I've been consuming in different snacks and the things that are just like a little extra. I'm just going to slowly remove some of that stuff. And over time, I will more than likely notice some things changing.
So you want me to stop bringing you home chocolate?
No.
Okay.
I just
checking.
Can probably have a little bit less of it. And so that's the thing too, right? Like at the end of the day, for anybody too, that like if you're just really adamant about not wanting to track or you just have a lot on your plate, it doesn't have to be cutting out an entire food group. It's certainly not what I'm saying. I will continue to eat the chocolate and I will continue to have my cereal at night or whatever snack that I want to like eat. But what we have to remember is like 200 calories a day adds up over time and it goes in both directions. That's why people think, oh my gosh, like I'm 45 and all of a sudden I've gained all this weight. And it's like, well, you didn't all of a sudden gain all the weight. It really does slowly happen over time, whether you slowly got a little less active, like you went from 8,000, 10,000 steps a day to like 4,000. That will impact you over months/years. And so will consuming a handful of this here and there, that extra candy jar at work, or having that extra dessert that you all of a sudden added as a habit at night or whatever that it is. Those are the things that kind of add up. And so, you know, just pulling and plucking like small little changes here and there, like just adjusting your portion sizes a little bit, having things just a tiny little bit less instead of having 4 slices of bread, have 2 or whatever. Like those are going to make like the biggest changes versus, you know, having to necessarily go through the whole experience of tracking. But again, I still think tracking is the best way and the most educating way for you to understand where you're at. Yeah.
So yeah, same thing here. I've been tracking for years. Is it like 5-6 years or something like that? We've been tracking. And for those that aren't familiar, like tracking, I use MyFitnessPal.
Which is so funny that you still use that one.
I don't have the premium version anymore. I don't. I quit paying for it. It's like $80 a year. I quit paying for that.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So just have the regular free version that anyone can download, and essentially it's just you plug in your food. It tells you how much protein you've eaten, how much fat, how many carbs. Roughly, it's not perfect, and you know you put your calorie count in there too. So that's what we mean by tracking macros. You have to literally weigh your food, enter it in there, and it spits out the information for you. I tried counting my macros before an app, and I literally wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I suck at math. And
Oh yeah, I'm sure that was a disaster.
I was getting some wild numbers. Like, oh, I got to eat 7 cups of rice. Like, that doesn't sound right, but I'm going to do it anyways. But anyway, that was that was a long time ago.
Don't admit that to people.
That was a long time ago. It's like, this can't seem right, but whatever. I want to bulk a little bit. So
7 cups of rice with 7 tablespoons of peanut butter.
I may be exaggerating a bit, but it was off, and I found out pretty quick how much food it was. But anyways, so I know some fitness people out there don't like to do bulk and cuts. I do. I think it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to play with your body and see what you can do. And it's usually, for me, I like doing it mainly for performance. So, there is a thing like, if you have a little bit more mass, you can swing the club faster and things like that. And you can get a little bit stronger, build some more muscle. So I do bulks, and then, I don't like being fluffy. So then I cut it all back off. And
Cody does bulks and cuts every 2 weeks, guys.
I bulk and cut. I bulk and cut frequently. But anyways, I've actually done better this most recent time. So I bulked, and obviously it just makes more sense to bulk over the winter time, just because a lot of things are happening, holidays. So you're going to be eating more food if you go out places anyways. Like we go to your parents always have a plethora of snacks around the holidays. Your mom bakes like 7 batches of cookies while we're there. So
that's any time, honestly, at my house.
Anyways, that's just not a great time to be cutting. So anyways,
sure.
So that's like bulking season, and then I started doing my cut. I don't know now. It's been a couple months probably, and I'm working my way into maintenance calories now. And the reason I really stopped my bulk wasn't because I thought I was getting too fat or anything like that. It was mainly I was just feeling really sluggish. I mean, I was getting up into, and for me, I'm 170 pounds. I was getting up into like the 3,600 calorie range, and a high percentage of that is carbs. So I was eating a lot of carbs, and that just really started making me too sluggish. Like my workouts weren't great. I would wake up in the morning. The first thing I would do is eat a bagel, and then I'd drink my pre-workout, go work out, eat immediately when I got home. So it just, all that food and the food volume in my stomach just really started weighing me down, I think, and my performance started to decrease. So, and that's happened a few times when I've done bulks, and that's when I pump the brakes and I say, okay, it's time to stop bulking. I usually try to figure out what my maintenance calories are, and then I go into a cut. So cutting this time around, I listened to a few podcasts about intermittent fasting and how it can help your growth hormone and certain things like this. And I'm not an expert, so I won't go into it any more than that. But intermittent fasting is also just referred to as time restricted eating. And I tried it, and I've done it before, but this time I really noticed how sharp I was in the morning. So like if I don't eat first thing when I wake up, I just feel a bit more mental clarity. I get more work done. I think also because it's not something that I'm putting in my way in the morning. I can just get right to work and start getting things done without doing anything else except drinking coffee. So that's been a really great thing that I've been working on. And now I've been working out fasted, and I think there's a misconception that when you work out fasted, you're just going to burn off all this body fat, right? Even though you are kind of using more fat for energy, it doesn't mean you're just going to just shred off body fat immediately, right? You have to be in a caloric deficit over a long period of time to actually get that body fat to go away. But I've just learned to really kind of enjoy the intermittent fasting. So that's what I've been doing. I still count my macros though, because you could do intermittent fasting if you want and still be in a caloric surplus and not lose any weight. So that's still, you have to hit that. It's just a little bit easier when you do an intermittent fasting. And I have just really liked how I feel doing it. So that's why I've kept doing it. And it's not now, because now I'm in maintenance. I could eat whenever I want. It's like I'm not trying to really restrict calories necessarily, but I'm finding it to be a great way to just enhance my performance in the morning and in the gym. I've found that to be good for me. And that's definitely not for everyone. So I'll put that disclaimer out there. It's definitely something, if you want to experiment with it, you can go for it, but it's not for everyone. So that's where I'm at now. And then I do like to experiment because I'm always wanting to see because it's performance. Like, how can I get the best performance out of my body? So now I've listened to a few more podcasts, and they were talking about how you can do some refeed days. So I'm doing a couple of refeed days where I have pretty high carbs. And what's been crazy that I've noticed when I've done these is that I will eat more calories than I'd eat on a normal day, but I'm eating less protein and less fat, but more carbs. So I'm eating about like 400 more total calories on these days, but I'm starving. Like On the other days, I'm pretty satisfied. When I drop that protein, I drop the fat, and I just amp up the carbs. I feel like I could just eat all day long. It's been pretty interesting. So I've had to really. That's when I've really relied on counting my macros to make sure I don't eat too much. So because it would just be so easy, and that just really reminds me of people out there that, because I've always just eaten a lot of protein. So when I'm strategically or I'm purposely cutting down on my protein, I'm still getting like 0.75 grams per pound of body weight. So it's still a decent amount of protein. It's like 150 grams of protein or something like that. So it's a little bit more than 0.75.
So why did you introduce the refeed days? Just because you heard someone on a podcast talk about it?
Yeah, I heard him. Well, he's not just someone. He's someone that knows what he's talking about. But
I know, but what was the intention behind it?
Yeah, so the intention behind it was
there's a lot of people that also listen to a podcast like we're saying, and I think that hopefully we're the antithesis of do this because Cody is intermittent fasting. What is the goal with refeed days for you? I understand the goal of refeed, but why did you do it?
To raise my, what is it? What levels are coming back up?
Your glycogen?
Glycogen. So that way I can so I'm doing it like roughly over the weekend so I can hit my Monday workout really hard. So when I refeed them, it should help my performance on Monday.
Got it.
And I'm just experimenting with this. We'll see if it works.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not, so good point. Like I'm not, I think I said that about intermittent fasting. It's not for everyone. I'm not out here recommending this. This is just what I'm trying with right now to see if it works for me.
Well, yeah, I just want to make sure that we're like really clear in our messaging. Cause like I'll speak to like intermittent fasting. I think it can be really a great tool. It's completely overused and completely bastardized. It's completely something that people like to tout that they say, and they think that it's a great fat loss tool. But to your point, you should be tracking your macros because it's very easy to be starving all day and binge at night and not really get anywhere with it if you're not like doing it appropriately or for what the effect is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I honestly think fasting, like if you're going to really use it, can just be a good tool to learn about your appetite and hunger for people that are snackers, for people that feel like they need to like constantly be munching on something, not even from a weight loss perspective whatsoever. You're just teaching your body how to be hungry and that it's okay and that it's not an emergency. I actually too, like I can appreciate the mental clarity piece. I wake up very hungry. I like to eat breakfast in the morning. I like to eat when I wake up. I also train in the morning. You said that you do too. I find that for people that train in the morning, it can be really challenging to do intermittent fasting because like then you're like you're stuck in this abyss of I've worked out, like I can't eat before, I can't eat after. Like it can make you really hungry depending on what type of training that you're doing. But for people like that do want to have like a little bit more mental focus, there is that component of it for sure that I've heard that people have. And so it's really just a matter of like, what I'm getting at is it depends on what your goal is. And it also is so personal. Women tend not to do very good on intermittent fasting because our hormones truly do fluctuate a lot more than men do throughout the day, the week, the month. It also isn't super awesome for us to get our blood sugar really low and to have like zero food in our system because it can really affect like our estrogen levels and like that again, like it just kind of creates like a ricochet effect that isn't always the best feeling for women. And so I caution people when like we're talking about any of these types of things, like macro tracking, like all the things, like it does matter what works the best for you. Now, some people do good on intermittent fasting like early to like 4 p.m. cutoff. Like some people I've known people that do that and like but you have to just always consider like you go out to eat with people at night or like same thing in the morning. Like what happens when you go out to breakfast with people? Like you have to understand like that your lifestyle should also fit into like whatever method that you choose. Yeah.
I mean, I also adjusted like when I would eat to when you get home from work.
Yeah.
So we can eat together and I can have our ice cream after.
Yeah.
And I make an adjustment for that. So, I think it has been an easier way to, when I was cutting, to reduce calories, but I've kept doing it now. And who knows, I might do it again if I bulk. I don't know. It might be kind of hard, but I do really like the way I feel in the morning. And I get a lot of work done. So
Yeah, I
it's
get
worked
that.
for me that way for
I
sure.
do enjoy having less food like midday for me, like throughout the workday. I've always kind of liked to have like a decent solid breakfast and then like a smaller lunch. Heavy lunches, like while they can be wonderful, they do bog you down. They certainly make you feel. That's why, like, with people that go out and do like the Chipotle in the middle of the day or whatever, like no judgment, like seriously no judgment, but I'm like, damn, like how do you do your whole afternoon after that? Like it just it tears you down when your body, like all the blood's rushing to your gut, like trying to process all that food.
And we did it what was it, last Friday? We went to the buffeteria.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was ready for a nap.
That's true. I know, and like, I mean, we went. What time did we go though? Was like 10? Did we do 10?
No,
Or
because
we
they were about to
11?
stop serving breakfast. So we
Yeah,
went.
it was 11, so that was like our lunchtime, I guess, type of a thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, the one thing with that is like we just didn't eat all the rest of the day. I mean,
yeah.
till dinner time or whatever. But like whatever, it carried me through for 6 hours or however till I felt like I really like needed to eat something. But yeah, it definitely does make you feel a certain kind of way, and there's absolutely something to be said about like fasting even for a shorter window of time. But I think the best tool is just for people that are snackers or whatever. It also makes your digestion feel a lot better. When I was going through a lot of gut stuff, like fasting helped me just feel better in my gut because there wasn't always food going through there. For the people that are the snackers out there, like, which are unfortunately like a lot of women like kind of do the small little, I'm gonna have my nuts and I'm gonna have my this, and then they wonder why they have like bubble guts all the time and gas, and everyone's on TikTok apparently it's like hot girls have IBS or whatever the shit that goes out there like these days. It's so crazy, but it's like, nah, we probably are just like noshing and nibbling all day or just eating way too many like raw vegetables or some crazy bullshit.
Yeah.
And you're not letting yourself like actually digest and like have food. Like
Yeah.
have a real meal, like a good hearty meal that like keeps you full for longer.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing. Another reason why I've kind of liked eating this way is that, if I was going to be in a caloric deficit and I was going to be eating like for long periods throughout the day, you would eat small meals. And for me, that's always just kind of felt like it just kind of gets you warmed up.
Yeah.
Like you don't get
To
satisfied.
get full.
Yeah, so it's like,
Yeah.
oh, where's the rest? And then
Totally.
then it's in your brain. It's like, oh man, I want more.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
when you do intermittent fasting, I can eat bigger meals as the time is shorter. I'm not starving between that. I have a big enough meal for my first meal of the day is big enough where I'm very satisfied for a while.
Totally.
And then
Yes.
you've commented before like how I can eat like back to back pretty quick. Like I can eat like some steak and then an hour and a half later I'm like, okay, we can have chicken now.
Yeah. It's funny how you can do that. Yeah. Usually like if I am eating like a hunk of meat, like I need a second. But I'm like you though. I like to eat them. I do like to eat meals, and I encourage that for most people because I do believe that that's actually the best way to approach eating. I'm not saying it's for everyone. It's just like intermittent fasting for you. It's like, but we've gotten in this snacky culture, and like snacking is kind of, I think, what can tear us up a little bit. And it can very easily add calories to your day because you're just noshing and you're never getting that feeling of feeling full, like satiated.
Yeah.
And I think people confuse feeling satiated with like, oh, I ate too much and I'm bloated and I'm fat. And it's like, well, no, like you're full and now your body can just process and rest and digest. Like it's actually a great thing. And you don't have to snack all day, and you don't have to have that 3:00, oh, I'm hungry a couple hours after lunch or whatever. Like you should be satiated for like a while if you have a good balanced meal. The last thing I wanted to touch on, because you touched on it, and then we can kind of just go into our high level like grocery routine, but like the protein piece is so important for cutting, for bulking, for maintenance, whatever type of diet that you're doing. Not whatever type of diet, because of course there's low protein, like vegan type diets, but protein is so important for satiety and for your health. If you want to look good, if you want to feel satisfied, 100% of the time, if you're eating enough protein, you will feel a lot better. When you're cutting, protein is important to feel full because, like you just said, you can get a little bit hungry. That's kind of what happens when we're cutting. But even when we're bulking, we want to make sure we're eating enough protein too, because like we want to be putting on lean mass, and like that that comes from making sure we're eating enough protein. That's where dirty bulking can like not be very effective at all, just because you're putting on weight on the scale and you're eating a lot of carbs and fats. Like it's not just turning into muscle. Like we need to make sure that we're eating really good quality protein kind of no matter what. Because it just keeps us satiated, keeps us full, helps our lean mass stay and or grow. And typically when we're eating enough protein, we're eating good food. We're eating whole food. If you're eating protein, you're eating your chickens, your beefs, all of the things in between, your fish, cottage cheese, dairy, like all of that stuff's like very good for you from a nutritional vitamins and minerals standpoint. So yeah. Well, let's talk about like what we do. Cause I got this question a couple times, like kind of recently. So it's like, people ask, well, what's the, like, how do you meal prep? Like, and I think that everyone kind of can go about this their own way and do what works best for them. But what we do is typically buy our stuff at Costco once a week. We load up our meat. We vary lately. We've got chicken in the air fryer. We've got steak night a few nights a week. And then ground turkey for like our very lean protein, easy prep on the go. And so we buy all of that basically in one full swoop. Like in once a week, we typically have to go restock our protein. And we've always encouraged people to cook it like a couple times a week, because we're not the types of people that are like eating food that we've made 7 days later, right? Because it's just not as good when it's like 6 or 7 or even 5 days past.
Yeah, I think that's a big point right there. Is if you are trying to stick with something, we need it to taste good.
Yes.
We know that there are so many delicious food options out there, so it's gonna be some FOMO if you're sitting here eating some bullshit that's 7 days old, knowing that Chick-fil-A is right down the street and will give you a delicious sandwich unless it's Sunday. So it's the food needs to taste good. And I think that's always something we've really done around our house. And I get it. Like, there throughout the day, sometimes I do think about, okay, I've done the dishes twice in one day. Sometimes, it's
totally
we're running the dishwasher again after I just unloaded it that morning. So there is more work. I got to clean the air fryer every night. There is absolutely more work on things like that. But, if you're at home and you're running back and forth to getting fast food or getting it delivered, it's super expensive. So
waiting in line.
So, I mean, if you really like got out a piece of paper and wrote down and you like timed it and you really got your timing right, it's probably about the same, but it is more work on your part as opposed to just sitting there waiting and playing on your phone or something. So yeah, you are doing a little bit more. You're dealing with raw chicken. It's really not that big a deal. You grab some tongs, throw it in an air fryer, season it up, and hit some buttons, and it comes out like magically delicious in like 15 minutes. So yeah, I mean, it's not no work, but I think the payoff is so huge because now I've gotten to a point where our food at home is so satisfying, and we've gotten it to a point where we really like what we eat, that when we go out, we can be disappointed quite frequently. Now we've narrowed it down to the places we really like to go to. Our Red Rock that we go get the salad once a week, sometimes twice a week, and that is Erika and I's like cheat meal every week is salad, and it's got a bunch of stuff in it. It's not just some boring ass salad, by the way. It's the best salad on earth.
It is the best salad on earth.
and it comes with
a hunk of cornbread.
And sometimes they offer butter.
Yeah.
So
it's so good.
It's definitely like that's what we go out and eat. But anyways, we get good pieces of meat at home. We cook it. We cook it well. I mean, it's just on the grill. You get a great steak. We air fry potatoes, so it's almost like we have French fries at home. I mean, they're air fried potatoes. They're freaking awesome. They're crispy. You can throw some ketchup on them. Taste just like McDonald's French fries. Not just like it, but they taste good enough. And you can eat a lot more of it. So, I mean, when you take your plate and our plates throughout the day and see that, I'm eating around like 2,600 calories. If I was to line out all the food I ate during a day and put it up against what most people probably eat for 2,600 calories, my plate of food would probably stuff you because it's so much volume of food. versus like probably your little nibbles of this and that would add up to the same amount of food. So I think that's a big point of how we make food at home. And I think the air fryer has been probably our greatest investment in a while. And then the Creamy.
Yeah. Are they both Ninja?
Yeah, they're Ninja. We should get sponsored by Ninja.
We genuinely like are hardcore Ninja.
Yeah, the Creamy. If you guys have watched my stories and Erika's stories about, and you've made a post of making the Creamy ice cream before. It's absolutely delicious. We eat it every night. It's easy to make. It's filling. You get to eat a full pint of ice cream for like 300 calories. It's fantastic.
Is yours 300 calories?
Nah, mine's about 450. But
I'm like, you put fucking butter in there, or cookie butter and cookies.
Yes,
no, he's right. You can you can though with just the ice cream, like the ice cream and the protein powder portion, whatever is like 300 calories or less, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty too. Like, I'm not guilty, but I put in cereal in mine. And I mean, that's another 150 calories. So, yeah.
I mean, I track it all. It's fine. And then...
I don't, so it doesn't count.
Definitely but the air fryer too. So, like, if you guys, I mean, definitely check out the Creamy, but an air fryer has been our greatest, like, tool in the kitchen. I mean, we use it. I got to clean that thing sometimes twice a day. I mean, air frying just potatoes. Great carbohydrate, boom, they taste like French fries. And then we just literally throw our chicken thighs, because we don't do the breast, they're too dry and they're not tasty. So we just do chicken thighs. Erika, from Maryland, we got the Old Bay seasoning.
Yeah.
And
Old Bay seasoning goes on everything.
It's delicious. I mean, and it's easy. So I think, and that's just that's our thing, is eating it at home. You're going to save a lot of money, but it just becomes much more satisfying than going out to eat sometimes.
It does. When you get into that habit of like, wow, the things that I make at home are better, more satisfying, and I feel better afterwards. That's the other key, I think. Like, there's a difference between eating meals out and eating meals at home. You feel different afterwards. If you're not paying attention to that, start paying attention to that. I don't feel sluggish after we have our meals at home. Like, they're not full of like a bunch of hidden oils and fats that typically are what make us feel so like bogged down after we eat meals out. And they're so simple. We're not following recipes, guys. There's no secret sauce. There's no recipes that we're following to a T and having to buy 98 ingredients. We're throwing chicken into an air fryer. We're throwing steak on the grill. Steak, potatoes, vegetables. Like that's it. Protein, veggies, carbs,
Easy.
Rice. Like, the things that we get are very basic. We've got eggs in the fridge at all times. Those are so easy to throw on the frying pan and mix with whatever. Add vegetables too. There isn't really a lot of rocket science to it. And the more that we can simplify and like the less overcomplicating that we do, the better.
Yeah. I mean, one of our athletes recently asked, man, I'd love to see what you do for breakfast. I don't know why they just said breakfast. I was like, that is my most complicated meal, because I just throw a bunch of stuff in a pan and stir it all up. But yeah, it's just pick food that you like to eat, and it probably goes well together. Put it all on a plate and eat it. It's pretty simple.
Well, yes, but
I mean,
asking people to pick food that they like to eat is not what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, not pick
here.
like super processed. Like, do you like chicken or do you like steak?
Yes.
What kind of vegetable do you like?
Yes.
Put that one on there.
Yes.
What kind of carb? Do you like potatoes? Do you like rice? Okay, put that on there.
Yes.
I'm not saying like grab your Oreos and your shit over here.
Well, yeah.
But just go to the real food section of the store, pick out the stuff you like, and you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, guys, let go of the need to have, breakfast foods. That's where people get really, really trapped. And it's like, the food industry has led us to believe that we should be having certain things at certain times of day. And like, that could not be further from the truth.
And if you are crunched on time and you're like, hey, I cannot cook. I want to take something to work. I don't have an air fryer at work. If you go to Costco, and every store has this kind of stuff. I'm just much more familiar with Costco. There is so much like pre-cooked meat out there. Like, you do like some brisket. They like the Kevin's Natural Foods. They have like all sorts of stuff.
Before.
Yeah, there's all sorts of like just super quick. I mean, you could eat it cold. It's already cooked stuff. It's just they're gonna give you directions on how to warm it up and throw some of their sauce on it or something. But it's already cooked. Like, so if you are in a bind, you could eat it cold. Yeah. So there can be literally no cooking involved, and if you just need a carb, you can get some fruit.
Yep, that's what I do. Literally.
Easy.
Bananas. They're to-go food. Lots of fruits are easy to take on the go.
Yeah.
Get yourself some glass containers to take your stuff and put it in a dish. I've been rushed multiple times throughout the week in the morning, and I grab my food. I grab my meat. I don't want to get stuck with like some junk, or I'm starving later, and then you reach for something that's probably less than ideal.
And I think when you realize how different this makes you feel every single day, the performance you'll have in the gym, talking to a lot of golfers, the performance you'll have on the golf course, more energy, more clarity, your sleep better, everything in your life gets better. It's really hard to, like, I still get cravings and want to do cheat meals and things like that. Like last week, National Pancake Day. We have the Cody Eats cakes. I used to eat them every single day. I love them. I put real syrup on it, and I had a giant serving of them, and I felt like shit afterwards. And I was like, wow, my body's really changing and getting used to just more real whole foods.
Yeah, totally. And I'm sure you had a mass quantity of pancakes.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that too. You guys can have the things. It's probably just having a little bit less and learning to be okay with a little bit less too.
Yeah.
But I get that. I've gotten a lot better about like desserts and things like that for me too. Cause again, when you're younger, like you just don't feel it as much, but it's like, because even when I'm older, I still like want to indulge, but I just feel like shit. So it's like just learning how to like have not the whole giant ass cookie that's the size of your head, and like truly just having a few bites and knowing like truly that it's like, that was good. That was like all I needed. Mm-hmm. I don't want to feel like garbage.
Yeah.
It makes my stomach hurt for hours. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Can't sleep good or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely thinking about how you're feeling and again, like what works best for you and your family. But hopefully this was helpful, just kind of hearing us talk about it.
Yeah.
From two people that don't have kids, but we do work a lot. We've got a lot of things going on. And so you make it work. You just got to make it work. You have to make it your priority for sure.
Yeah. And I think if you like, the last thing is like, if you just don't focus on, if your goal is to lose weight, because that's most people's goal. Don't focus on doing these things because it's going to help you lose weight. Make another goal out of it too. Like, I want to see how this is going to make me feel.
Yes.
And then that's what'll get you hooked on it.
That'll keep you.
That'll get you the buy-in.
Totally, 1,000%.
Right? So
1,000%.
Last little takeaway for that.
Yeah, and so with that, guys, we have a nutrition ebook for all of our Lift Heavy Swing Fast members. It's part of our coaching. We don't plug it enough, but like we do a lot for our community, and we are proud of it at a very cost-effective price. Our membership includes contact with both of us on our Facebook group. Cody's on there doing Instagram lives on a weekly basis, interacting with our athletes. We're coming up on 1 year. When this goes live, we will be past our 1 year of Lift Heavy Swing Fast, which is amazing. If you're not on our email list, please get yourself on there. You go to codywescottgolf.com/links and you'll find all of our programs, how to sign up for the newsletter, et cetera, and finding all of our social channels and all the things like that. So thank you guys for listening. We will come back soon.
Thanks, guys.